Hello, hello, hello. Hi, this is me, Shruti here, and this is my friend, you. Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Sustainability Mindset, that aims to facilitate the future leaders with sustainability knowledge, skills, and tools to become sustainability change agents. So, you, tell me, what's today's topic?
I was supposed to come up with a topic?
Yep. Don't tell me you forgot about it.
Um, my professor was explaining about global warming today. Everything was a bouncer. Let's talk about that.
Fantastic topic, you. Let's talk about the complex situation of global warming. Let me introduce you to the most important and basic fact of global warming. Last year, 2021, on 9th of August, an intergovernmental panel on climate change, that is IPCC assessment report, was published. Now, those who don't know what IPCC is, it's an organization created in 1988 by the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Programme to provide policymakers with regular scientific assessment on climate change, its implications and potential future risk, as well as to put forward adaptation and mitigation options. Thus, its assessments. The IPCC determines the state of knowledge on climate change. And in the last year's report, there are two important conclusions. First, that the current climate change are unequivocal, meaning there is no doubt climate change is happening. And second, that it's unequivocal, this is largely due to emission of greenhouse gases resulting from human activity.
Wait a minute. So you are telling me until 2021 we all were in doubt whether climate change was real or not?
Mm-hmm. Some of them still are.
Fantastic. And on top of that, we were also confused whether humans were responsible for climate change or not.
Yes.
How smart. But, Shruti, I have a question for you. In the second point, what human activity are they talking about?
Well, the IPCC made it very hard to figure that out. The report spoke about what's happening to the climate, but never about why it's happening and who is responsible. It was like you will learn that the world is ending, but you will never know whom to blame for it.
Do you mean they forgot to say that it's human activity that involves using fossil fuels?
Very good, catch you. You are really smart. But the reason I introduce you to these two facts is to establish that climate change is real and it's due to human activity that involves using fossil fuels, of course. Once this is established, it's easier for individual to take responsibility and act urgently to halt this rise in temperature.
But how do we do that?
Well, there are three stages. Stage 1. Let me take you to the past. To understand the complex problem of global warming, it's important to understand where and when the problem actually started. To do so, let's go back thousands of years ago. At this time, the Earth's climate was in state of equilibrium. Most importantly, the concentration of atmospheric carbon dioxide was about 280 ppm, meaning for every 1 million particle of air, there were 280 particles of carbon dioxide present.
Wait a minute. Shruti, if 280 ppm of CO2 was present in the atmosphere, how was the Earth's climate in state of equilibrium? Isn't CO2 the greatest villain?
Aha! Great question. Let me explain. The small concentration of CO2 in the upper atmosphere was actually a good thing for the Earth. In fact, this was the reason the Earth was at relatively warm temperature. CO2 was actually the hero then. Confused? The CO2 molecule has a property where it can absorb the infrared heat leaving the earth after the earth has been heated by the sun's rays. Without this property of CO2, the average global temperature would have been about 33 degrees Celsius cooler than it is today.
So what happened then? When did the hero become villain?
This happened during the Industrial Revolution. That was the time when human activities increased, mainly burning of fossil fuels, due to which the CO2 level started to rise. In 1960, it was 316 ppm. By 1980, it was close to 340 ppm. In 2000, the CO2 level rose to 370 ppm, and just 20 years later, in 2020, the CO2 level were 440 ppm, and today in 2022, it's 420 ppm. This increase in the CO2 molecules in the atmosphere have started to absorb more heat that was supposed to escape the earth, causing an increase in global temperature. Not only that, this rise in temperature has caused many feedback mechanisms. Some are known and some are unknown yet. I will explain about different feedback mechanism in some other video. However, I would like to mention about the most important feedback mechanism, that is water vapor feedback mechanism. The rise in temperature has increased the concentration of water vapor in the air by evaporation from the oceans. This in turn has resulted in further heating of the earth.
How?
Well, not many people know that water vapor is a significant greenhouse gas. In fact, nearly 30 times more effective than the carbon dioxide. This feedback mechanism is critical in understanding global warming, and it has been estimated that water vapor is responsible for 60 to 80% of global warming. Therefore, it's safe to say that the role of carbon dioxide is to just act as a trigger in enhancing global warming.
What?
Yep, take a minute to let it sink.
So, what you're telling me is with the increase in CO2, there will be rise in temperature.
Correct.
The rise in temperature will then give birth to various feedback mechanisms, most importantly, the water vapor feedback mechanism.
Correct.
Now, what's interesting here is that these mechanisms have higher potential of global warming than CO2. Therefore, it's important to keep CO2 at check as it's a trigger.
Perfect, you. You are smart.
I know.
Now let's move to stage 2. In stage 2, let's understand our current situation. Let me tell you about the changes in global temperature. Past 7 years have been the warmest years since modern record keeping began in 1880. Not only that, the 10 warmest years on record have occurred since 2005, whereas 2016, 2019 and 2020 were among the top 3 warmest years on record. If you see the graph very carefully, you will see that from 1900 to 1980, a new temperature record was set on average every 13.5 years. But from 1981 to 2019, a new record is set every 3 years. This demonstrates that we are not doing enough to halt the global warming, and the only way to do that is to reduce the amount of CO2 we are emitting.
Wait. If the only way is to reduce carbon dioxide emission, I have a very important question for you. Where do global greenhouse gas emission come from?
Fantastic question. Let me show you a graph of our world in data. If you see energy use in industry, energy use in building and energy use in transportation account for 73.2% greenhouse gas emission. Further, agriculture, forestry and land use accounts for 18.4%. Direct industrial processes accounts for 5.2 and waste accounts for 3.2% of emission.
But Shruti, I have a mixed feeling. There are so many articles out there saying that we are heading towards a low carbon energy system. But you are saying that energy use accounts for 73.2%.
If you see carefully, the energy used in industry, building and transportation is nothing but electricity, heat and burning of fossil fuels. So if you consider only electricity, then 37%, that is 1/3 of electricity comes from a low carbon source like nuclear, solar and hydro, etc. But if you consider energy use in total, that is electricity, heat and fossil fuels, then the percentage shrinks down to 15.7. because heating and transportation heavily rely on fossil fuels. So, when an article talks about energy being clean, understand they are using energy and electricity interchangeably.
Acha, false positive. I understood now. But what's the future prediction then? Will we make necessary changes or are we going to follow business as usual?
Funny you asked that question. IEA, the International Energy Agency, is also wondering about this. It has put together a report called World Energy Outlook that projects the future of energy production and consumption on a global basis. And this report talks about two scenarios. Scenario 1, the state policy scenario. This scenario is intended to reflect the impact of existing public policy frameworks, including announced policies' intentions. According to this scenarios, oil will still be the largest energy source in 2040, followed by natural gas. Coal consumption, which is decreased in the Western markets, will stay consistent with 2018 levels thanks to growing demands in Asia. Meanwhile, renewable energy will see an impressive increase in its portion by over 300% in the time period of 18 years, but still be accounted for just 25% of energy sources in 2040.
Okay, what about the second scenario then?
In second scenario, that is sustainable development scenario, outlines a major transformation of global energy system aligned with achieving the energy related components of the United Nations sustainable development goals such as reducing carbon emissions. And the most interesting part is that the projection is very different from the status quo. See this. The requirement of 2,500 million ton energy increase in the stated policies and the requirement of just 800 million ton energy achieved by reducing in energy consumption by residential and transportation sectors in sustainable development scenario is mind-boggling. Under this scenario, renewable energy use for electricity consumption, including hydro, would need to increase by 8,000 trillion watt hours. Under this transformational and ambitious scenario, fossil fuel use would plummet, coal consumption would drop by roughly 60%, oil consumption by 30%, and the role of natural gas in the energy mix would remain stagnant.
OMG, they are at extremes.
Yep, I feel that both the scenarios are just possibilities. In reality, we may likely find ourselves somewhere in between of two extremes.
Or, you never know, we may achieve the ambitious sustainable development scenario.
That's the spirit. I think we could achieve it if we did few things differently.
Like what?
Let me take you to the stage 3 then to learn what we could do differently. Stage 3. What can we do differently for better future?
What can we do?
Move towards cheap renewable energy to produce electricity.
What do you mean by cheap? Aren't renewable energy expensive?
Ha ha ha! That's the misconception. The cost of renewables have fallen faster than predicted. Check out this graph by International Renewable Energy Agency. The pink strip is the cost range of fossil fuels. Now compare the difference in cost of renewable power generation technology from 2010 to 2018. For example, take solar photovoltaic. In 2010, it costed 0.371 US dollar to generate 1 kilowatt hour of power, whereas in 2018, the price dropped to 0.085 USD per 1 kilowatt hour of power. Similarly, check out wind, hydro, geothermal, or bioenergy power generation technology that fall well within the cost range of fossil fuels.
Whoa, wasn't aware of this progress. Amazing. Next.
Second, we have to strictly incorporate environmental cost when discussing about fuel costs. According to a study published in Climate Change, the fossil fuels are way more expensive than you think. Why? Because we do not pay for cleaning up the pollution that burning the fossil fuels generate. If at all we start incorporating the cleaning up cost of the fossil fuels, the report estimates that gasoline will cost an extra $3.80 per gallon, diesel an additional $4.80 per gallon, coal a further 24 cents per kilowatt hour, and natural gas another 11 cents per kilowatt hour.
Baapre. But why do I feel like if policies are written to include the environmental cost, all of them will instantly jump to renewables?
Yep, that's for sure. But my argument is, why should we wait for the policies to change? Why not shift? And it's economically feasible also now. And moreover, parliamentarians really only do what the public wants. So it's incumbent on the public to make their wishes known. And support for renewable should be our topmost priority. We should make sure that the right candidates are put forward for our democratically elected leaders. It's stupidity to underestimate the power of common man.
That's true. I agree with you. Perhaps we should focus on investing in more profitable energy options as laid out in your first point, and demand for a cleaner environment as laid out in your second point. You know what, Shruti? Understanding climate change was not that difficult as my professor made it look like today.
Thank you so much, you. And you, stay tuned if you like what you see and hear. Please like, comment, and share. And let's meet soon with a new topic of sustainability and climate change. Until then, stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.